These are some of the worst photos I've ever taken. They're blurry, they're badly exposed, some of them are completely out of focus, and yet I would never delete them. A few weeks ago, I found a stack of camera photos from my younger days. Photos of friends, photos of birthdays, photos of absolutely nothing important. And looking through them, I realized one thing. I could remember almost every story behind these photos. The people, the conversations, the jokes, the places. Hi, I'm Prashana. This is Midlifers, where we talk about cameras, but really we're trying to understand why certain moments just refuse to leave us. If you ask me to scroll through my phone right now and find photos from 6 months ago, I'd probably struggle. Which is very strange because today I take more photos in a month than I took in my entire teenage years. So why do these terrible photos feel so much more valuable? That's the question that sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole, if you will. And somewhere along the way, I ended up buying two disposable cameras, the Kodak FunSaver and the Fuji QuickSnap. And this isn't really a camera review, at least not at first, because before we talk about which camera is better, I think we need to talk about why disposable cameras still exist at all. Because on paper, they absolutely make no sense whatsoever. Today, we carry some of the most advanced cameras ever created in our pockets. Our phones can shoot in the dark, they can shoot video, they can shoot portraits, they can edit photos instantly, they can store thousands of images, and they cost nothing to shoot. A disposable camera does none of that. You get a limited number of photos, no screen, no settings, no preview, no second chances. And somehow, people still buy them. Why? I think part of that answer is that we've become the most photographed generation in history. Everything gets documented. Our food, our holidays, our pets, our coffee beside our Leica camera, our camera beside our coffee. And yet somehow a lot of those photos disappear into an endless camera roll. The strange thing is that we've never documented our lives more, but sometimes it feels like we're remembering them less. Because the moment something interesting happens, we reach out for our phone, not to remember the moment, but to capture it, to share it, to post it, to turn it into content, and somewhere along the way, memories become content, and content becomes disposable. So I decided to run a little experiment. I bought a Kodak FunSaver and a Fuji QuickSnap, and instead of treating them like review units, I bought them out with friends, to meals, to walks, to random events, to moments that weren't particularly important to me, the kind of moments we normally ignore, and almost immediately I noticed something. The experience felt different, it felt liberating. Not because the cameras were better, they're definitely not. You can't check the screen, you can't spend 5 minutes making sure everyone looks perfect. You either take the photo or you miss it. And because of that, I found myself thinking less about photography and more about the moment itself, which sounds strange for a camera review. But stay with me, because eventually I got the photos developed, and this is where the review part actually begins. So let's start with the Fuji QuickSnap. The Fuji generally produced cleaner images. Exposures felt a little bit more consistent, outdoor photos looked vibrant and contrasty, colors were fairly neutral, and if you're looking for the safer choice, the more predictable choice, the Fuji is probably the better camera. Then there's the Kodak FunSaver. The Kodak photos felt warmer, a little less contrasty, sometimes a little rough around the edges, but there was still something nice about the images. Something about the colors, the photos felt a little bit expired almost immediately. Not necessarily better, just different. And if I'm being honest, I found myself drawn to the Fuji images a little bit more. Not because they were technically superior, but because they felt like memories from the past. And honestly, not very different from the Kodak. Now here's the funny part. As I was sorting through all these photos, something unexpected happened. I started forgetting which camera took which image. Seriously, I pick up a photo and think, that's a great shot. Was that a Kodak? Or was that a Fuji? I genuinely couldn't remember, and that was the moment this stopped being a camera review altogether, because suddenly the camera didn't matter anymore. The photo mattered, the memory mattered, the people mattered. Nobody looks at an old photograph and says, wow, what an incredible disposable camera performance. Nobody says, look at that sharpness, look at that dynamic range. Instead they say, remember him, remember that day, Remember when we used to come here every weekend? Remember how young we were? That's what photographs become over time. Not technical achievements, memory containers. Which brings me back to those photos. The reason I liked them wasn't because they were good. The reason I liked them wasn't because disposable cameras are magical. The reason I like them is because they remind me of a version of life that no longer exists. Friends I don't see every day anymore. Places that change. Moments I didn't realize were important until many years later. And that's the thing about photography. You never know which moments are going to matter. The photo you almost didn't take, the random lunch, the ordinary weekend, the blurry group shot. Sometimes those become the most valuable photographs you own. So which disposable camera should you buy? The Fuji QuickSnap is probably the better all-rounder. More consistent, more predictable, better if you want the best build quality, a better flash, a beginner-friendly design, wrist strap slot, larger viewfinder, all in a compact shape. The Kodak FunSaver is only better at night with warmer characters, more character, and perhaps a stronger nostalgic feel, if you will. Personally, I strongly prefer the Fuji. But honestly, buy whichever one is on the shelf and is cheaper. Because 20 years from now, you probably won't remember whether it was a Kodak or Fuji. You'll remember who was standing in front of it. And I think that's the real reason disposable cameras still exist today. Not because they're better cameras, but because they remind us that photography was never really about cameras in the first place. It was always about the people, it was always about the moments, and sometimes the best camera is the one that gets out of the way. Here's to the blurry photos, the cheap cameras, and the people who made them priceless. This has been Midlifers. Go capture something worth remembering.